That's the key. All you guys out there, I know I never fought, but in my opinion, I've been in the business getting paid since 2000. That's 11 years. Watching fighters come and go, watching fight camps come and go, meeting all these guys and I'm experiment. Like I go through their lives, and it's never too late to get your career together. You have to fall in love with jiu-jitsu. Of course, you need like the mental state together. You can't have a fragile ego, and you gotta have a warrior's mind. But if you have a warrior's mind, you love to fight, you love to train, you have a great work ethic, please fall in love with some jiu-jitsu. Fall in love with it, then you become dangerous on the ground. A wrestler who is not interested in learning how to take people out, that's like a basketball player not interested in like shooting the ball. I just want to dribble. I'm just going to dribble. I don't need to shoot the ball. I'm just going to dribble. Look at me. I'm a great dribbler. Yeah, your dribbling is awesome. You got to get good at closing the show, making some points. How could you be a wrestler and not be in love with choking necks? Fall in love with it. Study Marcelo Garcia. He's got a website, $30 a month. If you're in MMA right now and you're not studying Marcelo Garcia, you're behind the times. He's the number one guy in jiu-jitsu, number one in no-gi jiu-jitsu. No one's better than him. If you're an MMA fighter, fall in love with Marcelo Garcia. That's a great start. Jeff Glover, another great start. If you fall in love with Jeff Glover and Marcelo Garcia, bone both of them, you know what I'm saying?
And Glass, of course, you're some dude who just likes to stand.
Yeah, that's good too.
But you're
going to go so far. In what I've seen, working backstage at all these goddamn shows for the UFC for 8 years, that's what I see. I see the guys come and go. And the main thing at the very top, even if you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and you won the Mundials a bunch of times, what I see the prelims for the last 8 years. A lot of people don't see what's going on in the prelims. Just getting signed, if you're under 170 and you get signed to the UFC, that doesn't mean shit. You got to get through the prelims to get to the main card. You know how many fights you got to win to be on the main card, and you're 170 pounds, they're going to put you on the main card? You got to win more than 2 fights, and you better be exciting. So getting signed to the UFC is like those, and I've used this before, it's like those turtles that they're born, they're hatched in the, yeah, you're born, yeah, you're alive, but now you got to get past the seagulls and all the crabs attacking you. Good luck making it to the ocean, the main card. Good luck. It's really hard. And my point is, I see a lot of guys come and never make it to the prelim. There's been a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts out there. I don't want to say any names. A lot of them coming through, and they just get smashed by wrestlers. No one ever sees it. No one ever talks about it. It's not on the underground, and they just disappear. There's been a lot of them. There's been guys that rise and are stars, like Charles Oliveira and that Rocha guy. I like those guys. I want them to, their submissions look slick, no-gi. But there's a lot of guys that they can't get to the main card because they couldn't get past the elite wrestler. Even though they were a black belt in the gi, they're on their back. The guard is okay. Sometimes things catch. But overall, I see a lot of guys lose decisions because they're on their back against some average college wrestler they couldn't get past by. I see that a lot. That's what I've seen. Unless I dreamed it, or it's like I'm having delusions. That's what I thought I see. I see a lot of guys come through. They don't have the answer for the elite wrestler. If you haven't wrestled your whole life, guess what? Most of the guys at the top have wrestled, and you better have the answer for them. That's your worst nightmare. You better be training for that wrestler right now, because that's what you're going to hit. And every year, more and more wrestlers are quitting their job at fucking Home Depot, and they're watching The Ultimate Fighter going, I could be famous too? I wrestled 23 years. Fuck this life. They got 3 kids. They hate their wife. There's a lot of these guys coming. They're coming. They want to be famous too. There's a new celebrity in town, and it's the MMA fighter. And these guys, there are a bunch of them. The judo guys are going, shit, I could do it too. I almost went to the Olympics in judo. There's all these guys coming out. What are you going to do to them? These guys are used to being on top. They've been wrestling since 2. You're going to start wrestling now. If you haven't wrestled your whole life, your guard better be amazing. It better be ninja. When they talk about your guard, you think you're going to make it to the top in MMA, and you haven't wrestled your whole life? If they're not talking about your guard like it's fucking phenomenal, so dangerous, stay away from his guard, it's amazing. If they're not saying that about your guard, your chances are slim that you're going to get past the elite wrestler, because you're not going to be on top for sure. And it's a 50-50 beat 'em strike. If you beat them striking, you might win a few.
These new young guys, man, all of them are super equipped. Like this Michael McDonald kid that fought this weekend. Did you see that fight?
I didn't see that fight.
Oh my God. God, what a fight. Edwin Figueroa and Michael McDonald, they fought at 145.
Prelim?
145 or 135? I think it was 145. Forgive me if I'm not sure. Yeah, it was one of the prelims. It aired on like Facebook or, one of those things. Maybe it was Spike. I think it was Facebook, though. This fucking kid is super talented, dude. Super talented. And both of them are. The Figueroa took the fight on 6 days' notice and cut 20 pounds to make the weight class. I'm pretty sure it was 135. Either way, Figueroa cut all this fucking weight and was getting his ass kicked in the first round, but then just gutted it out and starts going after him in the second round, then the third round. Dude, it was just a crazy fucking fight. But this kid, McDonald, had him in a triangle armbar combination. He had his back. It was sick display of striking and jiu-jitsu together. And he's fucking 20 years old, man. All these new guys that are coming up, they can do everything. They can wrestle. They can do jiu-jitsu. They're good off their back. They're all good off their back. You have to be. That's the next stage. There's no getting past that.
There's no way. Ultimately, having an average guard like most, just most typical MMA fighters, just that average guard that we're seeing now. If you have that, you're gone.
Well, I think that the days of a guy not being good at any of the aspects of MMA are on the way out. There's not that much room left. It's like every other sport, man. It gets broken down to its bare essentials, and everything gets exposed. And now that we know the bare essentials, it's real simple. You have to have all of them in place. You have to have wrestling. You have to have striking. You have to be good off your back.
It's a science.
You have to be good on top. Yeah,
it's a science, and both of us have worked backstage, and we see these guys come and go. It really is a strange perspective for me. I'm getting to see what every fight I see in the truck for the last 8 years, I'm analyzing what works and what doesn't. I'm constantly doing the research and talking to these guys, see them come, see them go. I could put careers together like charts, And
there's a weird arrogance to not wanting to learn some aspects of the sport.
Yes, that's the problem. Yeah. Basically, if the people you roll with, if you're an MMA fighter and the people you roll with aren't talking about your jiu-jitsu like it's amazing, man, your chances are slim. That's why people eventually, you see these stars rise. And again, this is all coming from a scientist studying charts backstage. I've never fought. I'm not a badass. I'm not an athlete. I'm not this tough dude. I just notice things. That's all. I notice things, on a hyper level. And I notice that the fighters that come and go, the ones that come, if you put them all, I can't name names. That's the problem. You see them come and then you see them go. If you put them all together, their jiu-jitsu was never discussed. One common denominator was their jiu-jitsu was probably never discussed as something lethal at their own gym. You know what I mean? Probably not. I could go
on
through
that
all
level. There's a lot of guys who can get away with just wrestling and really good striking
for a while.
Yeah, if you can keep the fight.
You got to be good at everything, and people are leaving out razor sharp finishing jiu-jitsu. They're leaving that out. There's a lot of guys that are spending most of their time working on their striking, which is great. But I think the main concern is, you know what? I'm going to be as tough as I can. I don't want to be exposed. I don't want to get knocked. I'm going to do everything I can to not get knocked the fuck out in front of the world. So most people focus on the striking. I totally understand that. But you have, if you want to fight, if you want a long career, you want a long successful career, you have to fall in love with jiu-jitsu. And that means you have to study the top guys. And the top guys are Marcelo, Roger Gracie, and Jeff Glover. Just the most beautiful jiu-jitsu. Just watch that. And you got to start getting into that. If you're not into it and your career's not going that great, ask yourself that question. Think about what I'm saying. You've got to fall in love with jiu-jitsu. You have to. Not just striking and wrestling.
Especially if you if you like fighting, you're going to want to have a career that's long, and you're going to want to take as little damage as possible. And if you don't have like a really good submissions, if that option isn't in your toolbox at all times, you're gonna engage in longer fights than necessary. You're gonna get more damage than necessary. There's guys that would see, that have equal striking, but one guy will see an opening for a submission and jump on it even though he's striking with the guy, because he recognizes it's the correct thing to do, that it's there. But for some guys, they don't have that option in their toolbox. And if you don't have that option in your toolbox, you're gonna have longer fights. They're gonna be more brutal. You're gonna take more damage.
And you have less options.
And you can get hurt.
Overall, whoever has the less options is going to do not as good. It's just science.
And if there's more time fighting, there's more time you getting hit, there's more chances you getting hurt. It's that simple. It's really that simple. If you want to lengthen your career, you want to be as effective as possible. And if you want to have the most dynamic career, you want to be as effective as possible. Take whatever the fuck is there.